Morning.
Sorry, guys. So let me just show them the slides so that at least they can see where it began, and then we can proceed from there. Okay, so we are here to encouraging critical thinking. So science communication teaches us to question things, and because there's evidence for it, so you have to believe whatever that you're seeing right there, if there's evidence. And then it helps us to understand how to assess the credibility and relevance of scientific data and evidence. So that's the part of critical thinking. Science communication also involves listening to both questions, concerns, and ideas. It's a two-way conversation. So this is something that you will brainstorm when I send you the presentation. And then you can also think about it. What do you think can happen wrong when science communication goes wrong? Yeah, so that's food for thought right there. Yeah, so let's talk about how we can communicate science communication. We don't have so much time, and I don't want to take much of your time. So I'm just going to peruse through. So science communication can be communicated in different ways through radio, traditional media. There is radio, television, there's newspapers and magazines. I think we are all familiar with this. For some of us who are going to do podcast, that's where your radio will come in. We can actually air it on radio. You can do sound shows, news segments, or even interviews to communicate your story. And then you can also use newspapers and magazines. For example, if you have done this story and you have a local magazine in your community, you can actually go and publish it there. It will help people to understand what's going on with wetlands and also to explain these difficult, complex scientific terms to them so that they can understand better. Another way you can communicate science is through digital media. I think we are all very familiar with this. We have blogs and websites. I think this is where most students are and use platforms where scientists and science communicators share insights and updates. And then there's podcast. We also talked about this. This is now the modern version of radio. In case you're willing to record audio and then edit it, and then you produce a podcast, that is also very good. Then social media, you can use platforms like Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn to disseminate these concepts in like a thread or post or video. So this one we'll be doing at the end just to show you how you can explore social media using this. Another way you can explore science communication is through infographics. So let me say, like, for example, charts and maps, that's a very nice way to do that. And then you can even do like a drawing or a paint, and then you take a photo of it, and then you put it in your blog or presentation. Another way is photography and videography. Normally, we don't get a lot of photography, but we get not even so many videography, by the way. So I think this is something that you can all tap in. You can do short film, a short documentary, or even a photo essay. If you're familiar with photojournalism, you can do a series of photos, communicate a particular issue regarding the effects of wetlands. You can do cartoon and illustrations. If you're talented in doing cartoons, in doing illustrations, some people do it digitally right now, even using the AI. You can use that to explain these scientific ideas, and that will help you will help us, like the general public, to understand exactly what you're talking about. You can also use comics and graphic novels. I know some of you knows how to draw and use graphics and all that. And I think that's a very nice way and very, very modern to actually explain these scientific concepts. When you're talking about storytelling, you can also use case studies and personal narratives. Like somebody was asking me if you can use an example of a swamp that is closer to you to tell a story. That's a very nice personal narrative, and I think it's close to home. And it's very nice because it will be relatable to the public, and it will be better for them to understand these scientific discoveries. Another way is you can do through biographies and historical accounts. You can document the lives and work of scientists to inspire the future generations, or not just scientists, even your people, your community. Like it's how they're using the swamp and everything. So this is something that maybe might not materialize right now, but it's something that you can even try to do later on when you're pursuing the career. Another thing that you can also do is collaborate with non-science fields, like for example, art science collaborations. Like for example, here we have scientists and journalists, people who are pursuing science courses and even journalism courses. You can collaborate together to produce something together. And I think that also brings in, collaboration in terms of explaining concepts. Another way you can do is novels, poems, songs. This is the thing we talked about. And other literary or musical works to inspire, just inspired by scientific ideas. We have received poems before, we've not received songs, we've not received music. So I think this is something that some of us can also like explore. I don't know if you guys have heard like of citizen science and participatory research. You can be working with your communities and just to get their view of what they think about a particular phenomenon and how they would translate it according to their own understanding. That's a very nice way of applying citizen journalism to your work. Now, I hope I'm not rushing. Are we ready to go into the next session? Because I know you're using your internet and everything. So that's why I'm taking you guys through like really fast. So when you're talking about research papers, as most of us have asked me, how do we use research papers? Where do I find them? How do we apply it in science communication? So here are some tips I prepared on how you can communicate using research papers. One is to simplify the language. I think the only reason why we are trying to do this competition is for people to understand what's going on, but using very simple language. So for example, it would be very best to avoid jargons and technical terms, technical language, when you're explaining a concept in everyday terms. For instance, instead of using hydrological cycle, say water movement through the environment. This is very easy for someone who does not understand science to actually comprehend. Another way is that you can use analogies, compare scientific concepts to familiar scenarios. For example, when you're describing wetlands as nature's kidneys that filter and purify water, instead of using the, carbon sequestration, those terms. So you can avoid those complicated terms so that people can easily, understand and even make it even more relatable to the people that are reading it. It is very nice to highlight key findings when you're doing your story. For example, when you are working with a research paper and you see there's a critical data, let me say, for example, if a paper highlights that 50% of wetlands have been lost globally, emphasize this statistic as the story's focal point. Like you can begin with this, it captures the audience and it makes them really pay attention to what you're about to say. And then you can also use visuals. This is something that you can add in case you know how to use graphs and maps and simple illustrations. Nowadays, you can do them even with an AI. You can do that, and then it can help to actually explain, significant data. But if you can also highlight it in terms of text, even better. But it's very good when you're doing it from the introduction. It captures the audience. Then connect human stories. When you're working with research papers, connect to human stories. Like if you've talked about the data, then now you can now talk about a human story that's maybe happening in your community or back home or just where you are right now, whether it's in school and you have a swamp nearby. So integrate the data with stories of people affected by wetland loss. For instance, share how specific communities struggling with flooding due to wetland degradation. I hope you understand this. For example, near your school, there's a community that is really facing, like, for example, whenever it rains too much excessively, or it even floods, and it's affecting agriculture, it's affecting their livelihoods, it's affecting livestock, something like that. Even biodiversity is affected by flooding. So this is something that you can highlight when you're talking about your narrative. And then personalize the narrative. Talk about the researchers themselves or the people working to restore wetlands. This adds a human element to the scientific data. So once you've talked about the data and you've actually connected it to a story near you, now what are they doing? What are they doing to restore these wetlands? Or what are they not doing to restore these wetlands? It helps to personalize the narrative. Another tip that you can use is emphasize the broader impact. Here you go. So for example, I'll give an example of Kenya, and then I'll give an example of Lake Victoria. So Lake Victoria is being shared by 3 countries, but Lake Victoria also has the Nile River. The Nile River takes water from Lake Victoria, and then it flows across let me say like 8 countries. Yeah. So when you're talking about an issue that is affecting a swamp in your community, can you connect it to what's happening to other countries or to other communities around you? So with this, you make with this, sorry. So with this, you emphasize a broader impact so that people can really see like the impact of what you're trying to communicate. So discuss how the loss of wetlands affects not just the local area, but global ecosystems, food security, and climate resilience. You can even compare it to just Africa in general, like country, like for example, you can use an example of Sudan. You can use an example of Kenya. By the recently, we had like very heavy flooding, and I think it made people really think about how we are treating our wetlands and how we should stop like draining the wetlands that we currently have. Another way of emphasizing on a broader impact is tied to current events. Just like I've just talked about right now, flooding that happened in Kenya that killed almost 210 people, several not found, people did not have lands, people were displaced, farming was stopped, and livelihood was stopped, something that people can actually relate to, and it's also very current. For instance, link wetlands loss to increased vulnerability to climate change related disasters like floods and drought. And I think many of us in Africa, if you're not experiencing floods, you're experiencing drought. If you're not experiencing the two, you're experiencing both. So it's more like we are facing 2 sides of the same coin. So tie it to that. When you're doing your narrative, tie it to that. And then use a narrative structure when you're talking about, when you're communicating about research papers. Here is how you can do it. So when you're starting your story, start with something that is going to capture someone. Like start with a hook. Begin with a compelling fact, like I told you before, or a personal story that draws the readers in. For example, imagine a world where our natural defenses against floods and droughts have vanished. When someone is reading that, they're definitely caught up in whatever you're trying to say. They're definitely caught up in the narrative that you're trying to explain. Or you can build the narrative in bits. Like, for example, structure the information like a story, beginning with the current state of wetlands, followed by the impact of their loss, and ending with a solution or a call to action. I hope that is very understandable. Like you're going in slow and someone can just follow through all the way. So this is how you can use a narrative structure to actually communicate very compellingly on a research paper. Another thing that you can also do is offer practical solutions. Highlight actionable insights. Share what individual communities or policymakers can do to mitigate wetland loss based on the research findings. So like we talked when we were beginning, I told you guys that science communication helps to shape policies and make changes to our environment, climate and everything. So when you're ending your narrative, share what individual communities or share what policymakers can do to mitigate wetland loss based on the research findings. So depending on the paper that you chose, there will be ways of mitigating this issue on that research paper. Talk about it, and this is going to help people to have like a way forward. And then encourage engagement. Invite readers to learn more or get involved in wetland conservation efforts. Like for example, when you're ending your story, you encourage the community that you're talking about to do what they need to do so that the wetlands can be better protected. For example, if they're draining their wetlands, you can actually advise them on what they can do to actually protect the wetlands. For example, if they are grazing, so many people like they overgraze on wetlands until the shores are dry, and now it becomes even shallower. So you can actually talk about that as to encourage engagement on how to protect the wetlands. I hope that is clear. Another thing you can do is leverage the paper's credibility. How can you do this? Mention the source. For example, remember when we were talking about according to, let me just go back and show you so that you can pick it up again. Remember when we were talking about, for instance, highlight 50% of wetlands have been lost globally. You know, when you're saying something like that, now this is where it comes in. According to a recent study by University of this or Research Institute, or you can even use a paper even from a popular organization if you got it there. Like for example, IUCN. According to a recent study by IUCN that says that wetlands are now critically endangered in South Sudan or on Sud wetlands, something like that. You can use something like that. It captures attention and it brings credibility to what you're trying to say. Here is another tip that you can also use when you are doing this, when you're highlighting these. You can hyperlink whatever you're talking about, like from the source of the paper, you can just hyperlink so that when someone who not many people are have like average skills, so they can actually go and read it there. But for the simple people, it's very good to leverage and also bring the credibility of the research paper. Another way is to simplify data presentation. Instead of overwhelming your readers with too many numbers, pick the most impactful statistics that support the narrative. Just like we've done when I was explaining when we were coming towards this. Like for example, according to a recent study by the University of, University of the Gambia, for example, 50% of wetlands have been lost due to smallholder farmers around the region. That is something that is going to like really attract someone's attention, and it's also very clear, and it's not also very overwhelming for someone who's reading it. Higher. Let me give you guys an example of how we can apply a humanistic storytelling. Remember I told you when you do a humanistic story, it really captures people's attention. For example, when you're talking about a research finding, wetlands in the XYZ region, just put my charger. Okay, so wetlands in the XYZ region, let me say, for example, what can I say? For example, in Uganda, what region can I say? Let me say, for example, Entebbe. So wetlands in the Entebbe region in Uganda have decreased by 30% in the last 50 years due to agricultural expansion. Do you see that making more sense? Or you can even go even further narrower and put it like in a very small community. So let me talk about my community back home. So you can say like this: wetlands in the Kisian region. No, Kisian is very small, like a small community. Kisian in Kisumu region have decreased by 30% in the last 50 years due to agricultural expansion. So not only are you speaking to people in Africa, in Kenya, in Kisumu, but also you're also speaking to that specific community so that they feel it becomes even more relatable to the people that are reading it. Let me give you another example. For example, in the small village of, let me say, for example, Kibra in Kenya. In the small village of Kibra, families now struggle with yearly floods, a stark change from decades ago when the nearby wetlands absorbed excess rain. According to a recent study, the loss of 30% of wetlands in this region has left communities vulnerable with no natural barriers to protect them. These not only impacts the homes, but also their livelihoods as fertile land becomes increasingly scarce. I hope you're getting these examples, and I hope like now when you're coming from here, you can easily communicate about research papers. Now, by then you've come to almost just to an end. So in conclusion, by focusing on clarity, human connection, and the broader significance of the research, you can communicate scientific findings in a way that resonates with the wide audience while still maintaining the integrity of the research. Any question up to that point? I'm willing to go back to any page that you find a bit overwhelming for you. And if you're good, just let me know. You can just open your speaker and speak and ask me any question that you find that you'd like me to clarify for you as we go, before you go to the next part. Anyone? Vincent, are you raising your hand? I can see you've opened your camera.
No.
Are you okay up to that point? Who else is okay up to that point? Hello, are we okay up to that point? I don't know if someone is speaking or...
we are good.
You are good, eh? Awesome. That's great. Now, where can you find research articles? I've been getting this question and I wanted to address it directly. Infonile itself, where I work, we have a platform that connects scientists and journalists, and we normally post so many research. It's actually across Africa. You can find just search swamps or wetlands and see if you can find something that resonates with you. Another forum where you can also get it is the Open Environmental Research Journal. You can get so many research papers here. You can go to Science Direct. There is also ResearchGate, has very many. Then there's an AI that just, brings like a conglomerate of so many research papers, like a search engine for research. It's called Consensus AI. Another way that you can use, there is also IUCN resources. There's so many. So just go share this presentation, and then you can just use these ones and maybe others if you can find them, and then you can use them to communicate on it. What else did I wanted to show you guys? I think that's just it. I don't know if anyone has a question that I can address right now where it's not very clear. So tomorrow, I'll be talking to you guys about, it's more of theory, how you can, someone was asking me about doing video, doing podcast, and then incorporating them into a narrative, or doing a photo essay, or doing a blog, doing a poem. So tomorrow I'll be taking us through how to actually, produce these outputs. So many people do not know how to do this. I know some of us know, but most of us do not know how to do this. So I'll be taking us through that, how to actually produce communication outputs. If you have any issue with editing, I'll be able to help you with that. And then you upload them, and then how you'll be able to share the link, because so many people also do not know also how to share the link, and then how to upload the link to where we'll be submitting for the judges. So tomorrow I'll be focusing on Medium. There's a platform called Medium and WordPress. I'll also be talking about Spotify and SoundCloud and a bit of YouTube as well. So being a photojournalist, I'll also be showing you some of the things that I've done on, if you're interested in a photo essay, I'll also show you guys how you can do a photo essay. So I don't know if you are clear up to there. I don't really want to take much of your time. If you are just joining us, if you joined in the midst of it, you have recorded this training, even though we forgot to record from the start, but we recorded it and then we will share it. You can go through it at your own time. And I believe it's going to help you to do the assignment better. Even if it's not just the assignment, it's going to help you to be a better science communicator moving forward in your career. I'm seeing a chat. Gerald from Tanzania. Oh, Gerald, you're welcome. Yes. So, guys, is there any question? Please share any of your question, and then we can just close this meeting. Let me give you like 2 minutes, and then we can end this meeting early so that we don't take much of your time. So I don't know if was this training helpful to you. I hope it was helpful to you. And it's going to make you a better science communicator moving forward. Just keep it simple, guys. Just keep it simple, guys. Keep it as humanistic as possible. Make it as realistic as possible. Relatable. Use data that's in the research papers. And I think with that, you're good to go. Once you incorporate a bit of multimedia, you can add maybe a photo, so a few photos, a video if possible, whatever you can add onto your narrative, and you're just good to go. I think that's it from this training for today. So if you don't have any questions, I think we can just open our cameras and then we can just say bye-bye and close the meeting. I'll be able to share this presentation for us with you guys. Vincent, yes, I'll be able to share with you. Gerald, thank you so much for appreciating the presentation. So hi, Abdul Samad. Hey, how do you pronounce that? Eh?
Abdul Samad. Abdul Samad.
Oh,
yes,
which country are you
Abdul
from?
Samad.
Which country are you
from Tanzania, Dodoma, Tanzania.
Tanzania. How is Tanzania?
I am from Dodoma, Tanzania.
Vipi huko?
Tanzania is so good. Huko fresh kabisa. Karibuni sana. Nashukuru sana, umetufundisha vizuri, nimeelewa. Nimeenjoy somo la leo, ni nzuri sana.
Asante sana. Rehema has raised her hand. Hi, Rehema.
Thank you. Yes, Rehema.
Yes.
I'm Rehema from Tanzania. Yes, I'm Rehema from Tanzania.
Karibu.
Okay, asante madam. Kwanza kabisa nashukuru sana. Nimefurahi pia kusikia mnaongea Kiswahili.
Mimi ni Mkenya.
Lakini pia nimeenjoy lecture ilikuwa nzuri, lakini swali langu ilikuwa ni kwa wale ambao labda kwa mfano mtu anahitaji kufanya video, kwa mfano documentary, anaweza kufanya documentary peke yake alafu research asifanye, au anaweza akafanya vyote?
Okay, sasa kama vile nilikuwa nasema, kama uko na research paper, first of all, find a research paper. Look for a research paper online, and then with that research paper, the findings that you'll find in that research paper is what you'll be using to reference in your documentary. For example, if you're doing, like, for example, a voiceover in your video, you'll be saying things like, according to IUCN, the current loss on wetlands is to this percentage in Tanzania, Dodoma area. Okay. You understand?
Yes.
Yeah, so you're talking about this research paper, but you also you are trying to make people to relate to the video that you're talking about. So it makes your documentary very, very credible. You understand? Okay. So first of all, the first step is to find a research paper, and this is that paper that you'll be using the findings that this person did on this paper to communicate on whatever communication output that you choose. I hope that is now very clear. Even if you're doing a podcast and you're interviewing someone, and in between you highlight some of the findings on the research paper, some of the solutions that the researcher shared on this paper. You understand?
Yeah.
It's clearer now.
Yes. Thank you for your clarification, madam.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Someone else also asked me a question. When writing, do we have a format to follow? So I think I shared a brief format of a narrative here. Let me just talk about it here. So when you're using a narrative structure to communicate a research paper, let me just talk to it. I talk about it a little bit. You can begin. You can start with a hook when you're beginning with a compelling fact. For example, a personal story that draws readers. For example, you can even focus on a woman in a community, and this woman has been working extremely hard to restore the wetlands that is in their community. For example, she has been trying to educate her community, or she has been trying to restore the reeds that have been harvested in the community, or she has been trying to talk to the livestock keepers in the community to reduce or to use the wetlands sustainably when they're using it for water. So you can talk about this woman. So this is like a personal story. It shows the people. And then you can also build your narratives step by step. Like, for example, you can talk about the current state of the wetlands, followed by the impact of their loss. And then you end with a solution. But when you're talking about the narrative structure, if this is the same question that I think you're asking, it is in the first presentation that we shared during the orientation. It has the structure, especially when it comes to judging and the criteria for the judging. But if it comes to communicating it, I think this would be better for you. But if you're using it, for example, if you're asking how you can put it in a manner that the judges are going to find it, compelling and everything, it's in the first orientation presentation. Is that okay? So just go through the first orientation presentation. I shared it. I can share it again if you inbox me. And then when it comes to now using a narrative structure for research papers, you can use this format also to be more compelling. Is that okay?
Yes, madam.
Okay. Anyone with a question? Kelvin, Ngeno, was that clearer? Kelvin? Please find me later. In case you don't have the orientation presentation, I'll share it with you. Thank you. You've responded. Thank you. And then I'll also share with you this presentation, guys. Just go through it in your own time. It's going to make you be a very good science communicator moving forward. Okay? So shall we meet tomorrow, guys, for the practicals? I'll keep it very short and simple.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and thank you
Yes,
so
we
much
will
for
meet.
sparing your time. I know you guys are very busy with everything that's going on. And also yes, it's same time, Kevin. Same time tomorrow at 3 p.m. We can just take 30 minutes or 40 minutes and we are good to go. But it's information that is going to help you even moving forward with your literary works. So we meet tomorrow 3 p.m. I'll share the link in the WhatsApp group. And if you have any question, please feel free to ask me in my inbox or also in the WhatsApp group. Do not be afraid to even repeat a question that you've answered now that was not clear. Okay?
Okay, madam.
Okay. Thank you very much, guys, and all the best. I'm wishing you guys all the best. I'll be with you every step of the way. And I'm here to support you in whichever way you wish.
Okay.
Okay,
Have a nice
see you tomorrow.
Tomorrow, guys. Thank you for coming today. Thank you for sharing your time with me today. Happy to see you too, Vincent.
Okay, thank you too.
Bye-bye. Have a nice evening.
Bye, madam.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.